Thanks for taking the time to tune into the channel. I have a story that should be narrated really by a professional rather than this mug, but because this story would be funny if it wasn't so serious and could only be a matter of time before it blows up in the face of Boris Johnson and his mates. So it's a bit of a long story, so this is part one of a three-part video series, and the other links are in the description below. So let's look at why there may be an orchestrated attempt to muddy the waters on this matter. And we're talking about the rapid testing kits. Earlier this year, Dido Harding's track and trace budget had been expanded from 15 billion to 22 billion for the 2021 period. With only 5 billion spent to date, it aims to spend the remaining huge sum of 15 billion, which is more than the entire annual budget of the Home Office for a similar time frame. Why? Well, because according to the government's own scientific advice, which by the way matches that of almost every other health advisor, this policy is completely bananas. Alison Pollock, the professor of public health, the go-to person for this stuff at Newcastle University, was very clear when she told the BBC that mass testing was a scandalous waste of money, when the prevalence rate of coronavirus falls as low as it had been. There's an increasing proportion of cases are likely to be false positives, meaning that cases and contacts will self-isolate unnecessarily, especially if the testing kits are not fit for purpose, which is the case. This video will reveal why the government has again started pushing this agenda and who has to gain by the misappropriation of hundreds of millions, not tens of millions of your hard-earned pounds. Now, David Williams, the senior in the Department of Health and Social Care, in charge of finance, told the Public Accounts Committee recently that 90% of the track and trace budget was being spent on testing. He said lateral flow tests, which are the rapid, for you and I that means the rapid tests, rather than scaling up of laboratories, made up the bulk of the 7 billion extra. And this will become extremely important as we learn more. Now, though you may think this is going to sound like some sort of conspiracy theory or, God forbid, a Jeffrey Archer thriller, I assure you this is not. Nor, by the way, is this about aliens or global protectionism. This is about hard, cold facts and asks, just how bad are things right now in Westminster? It may indeed go a long way to explain why the UK's government's incompetence has become the laughingstock of the world, and may also explain why the system of counting casualties of COVID, the tragic deaths of COVID, was surreptitiously changed in August of 2020. So let's go. The web of connections needs to be examined to some degree. Now, what is the UK's top secret research lab in Portendown, the US's FDA, a PhD holder from China, a former shoe salesman, Boris Johnson, a little known company in the UK called Mologic, a horse racing site, and the Bill Gates Foundation, all got in common? Well, the answer is Innova. Innova's rapid testing kits. Like most recent screw-ups, this all started when Boris Johnson, our illustrious buffoon of a leader, announced that the UK was going to embark on the biggest and the best and the fastest test and trace system the world has ever known. Yippee, we all shouted. It'll make Britain great again, was the cry from the front and the back benches of Tory MPs at the time. And Boris, along with that muppet Hancock, were front and centre stage of the limelight at the time. There were a series of events that shaped the future of the testing swindle, and it all started around the middle of last year. Public Health England, PHE to you and I, is a government body, and it's headed by Michael Brodie, who was appointed in August of last year. Now, please remember that month of August of last year because it'll become important later. Remember that, take for instance, in August of last year, there was the change in how we counted COVID deaths. And he replaced a guy by the name of Duncan Selby, who was the CEO. Now, up until then, PHE wasn't really known by a lot of us. You know, who ever heard of the Public Health England, you know? But it was there. Just a month into the job, Brodie announced that the UK will roll out millions of rapid testing kits. The announcement that 350 million kits were ordered, costing 800 million quid, was made yet again. And Johnson and Hancock, again, front and centre. These kits were ordered from two blokes. They were called Kim Thongert and his partner, Chris Palmer. One had been a CEO of many companies, none of which by all accounts had been anything to do with the medical industry. And the other, well, he was a property owner, but who listed his main business and continues to this day to list his main business for a horse racing company called Super 6. And you're not going to believe this, but it's specifically suited to capitalize on the horse racing in the developing Chinese market. Now, how they became the obvious source for COVID rapid tests is anyone's guess, and how they secured the rights to the great and wonderful Innova test through their company Disruptive Nanotechnology is yet again anyone's guess, quite frankly. But here's the thing. Disruptive Nanotechnology, in their 2019 accounts, so just the 2019, just not last decade, just a few months ago, a few months after they got the test, had 58 quid in the bank. So how in the hell does an insignificant company in the medical industry with a balance sheet the same size as your local charity shop end up with an 800 million order? Is yet again anyone's guess. Had they the distribution channels? Had they been involved in the industry before? Had they ever done anything like this before on such a massive scale before? Anything like that? The answer is no, no, and hell no. So let's introduce the next players. One of them is a guy by the name of Charles Hong, a Chinese businessman born in all places, Wuhan, who did his PhD in Strathclyde University. He's one of the main men behind Innova. That's the company in the USA who supply the UK distributor Nanotechnology with these rapid testing kits. But he's not the only one in Innova. There's another guy, his name is Dan Elliot, and we're going to get to him because he's got quite a colourful past. But guess what? Innova didn't actually develop the test. They don't even manufacture the test. Yet it managed to secure worldwide distributions from around the globe. And the original manufacturer? Well, guess what? You're right. That's based in China, Xiamen City, Fushan. And its name is a company called Biotime. Now we look at the tie-up in Innova. You see, Innova had received massive funding from the parent company, an investment company known as Pasaca Capital. Who owns Pasaca Capital? It's our Wuhan man again, the one and only Charles Hong. Now, don't you find it a coincidence that around the same time as orders were being negotiated now, they weren't being placed, there was no placement, this company, Innova, managed successfully to tap into the investor market at exactly the same time. But even this is not completely clear as to whether or not Charles Hong had anything to do with it, because he's been in and out of the board of management of Pasaca Capital as many times as Mourinho left and entered football management. Now, then we have Mr. Elliot, Hong's partner. This was the deal maker specifically referred to by our boys in the UK as the man to get things done in a minefield that is political contracts. You see, Mr. Elliot is not new to this game. He knows how to play the political game. So rather than make this some long winding road, I'll finish part one here But I've left the link for part 2 and 3 in the description below. So I'll see you all later, where we will discuss the shenanigans of Mr. Elliot and most of the other players in this game. Thank you.